Hello everyone, my name is Blix, and for today's video, I am doing my personal review of the YouTube Danganronpa series called Danganronpa Pink, which is inspired by the anime of Danganronpa, obviously. I decided to watch this series because my two best friends, Chim and Josh, wanted me in hopes I'd enjoy and love the cast, the drama, the silliness, and the seriousness. And trust me, I did enjoy them all. I really like how well written it was for the trials, and for the investigations, and some of the characters. I was also really entertained by certain videos, and really uncomfortable watching certain videos. While watching each chapter, I decided to do a numerical ranking system of each character starting from the prologue, chapter 1, until all the way to 5, through a basis of how much I like them through contribution, relatability, and entertainment. Before I even get to reveal, let me put out some disclaimers. Yes, I am right. I am reading my own script that I wrote, so sorry if I sound very unprepared. And that this is all just completely subjective, and I really don't want anyone to feel some type of negative way, but regardless, I loved every person here, and I did enjoy at least one part of them. So yeah, don't go around and say mean things or something, because this is just how I felt. Also, spoilers to those who have not yet seen it, somehow. Anyways, let's begin with Chiba Ireie. Throughout the prologue to chapter 1, she never really stood out to me, and with her childlike persona, it gave me more of an ick rather than how I'd like her to. The reason why she rose just a bit during chapter 1 for me was specifically the trial, when she immediately clocked Kamimura for lying over the fact that he wasn't even allowed to go to the dormitories due to the punishment that he got. Since then, I knew Chiba was something more than her childlike persona. She was something more than that. In chapter 2, she completely changed, and as much as I was impressed with it, I was very deeply saddened at how she changed because she knew the situation she was now put in after the first person died. And seeing how she was so determined to getting out and getting into that vent, it only ended up to be her demise as Harada's pet killed her in the process. Learning her story and getting to know more about Chiba a lot more through her perspective was really cool, and it's a damn shame that we didn't get enough Chiba, especially when she got to know Hiroaki a bit more, which was, not gonna lie, that kind of saved them a bit. She was such an interesting character, and I feel like out of the trio of the three, Hama, Chiba, and Harada, she had the most potential out of them. So yeah, I felt pretty bad that she didn't make it. Up next, Hama. At first, I thought Hama was going to be this tough man with a dark past, but he's actually more than that. He's really badass with an extra side of plate of pure gold comedy. He was really hilarious the majority of the time he was there, especially the time when Chiba was still alive, when she was being all tough. And him asking Yanagi about Hayashi if he's quote-unquote hitting that. Those moments of Hama really took the life out of me, because what the hell was that all about? Chapter 1, he became besties with Harada and Chiba, and things really hit off very well for them. And then chapter 2 happened, and he immediately lost them all, so that sucked. Honestly, when that moment happened, I knew I was in for a show like never before, because this group crumbled in a matter of certain amount of videos posted. And I felt really terrible for Hama because of those videos, where it's just him crying. I really thought of him wrong, and he was just a guy who really cares about his family and would do anything to protect them. He really showed no ill intentions to anyone who was still alive with him up to chapter 4. Where that's his last appearance. And even then, he was the murderer. He never planned to being one, because he was only set up by Watari in hopes that he can escape for her, as she didn't want to go. It's his trial and finding out that he was the killer all along made me sob, genuinely. And Josh heard it all as I watched it with him live. He was really pure despite being in juvie, and he was really one of the best characters I've seen for a while. I really wish he got to escape and be with his family again, but they just love playing in my face so much. In terms of my rankings, he never was anywhere below the bottom half. He stood out enough to be in the middle of my rankings, when he actually does stand out, he's pure gold and pure heart, and he really deserved better. Who's next? Harada Queso. Harada, I felt pretty bad because he never really stood out from the cast for me personally. But I do remember him having having multiple terrible relationships due to how many various animals he has, and him fighting with Hiroaki over Hiroaki's reward, even though Harada did not have it in the first place. That made me giggle a lot, but almost in an uncomfortable way. I did feel really bad for him, somewhat pulling the murder, because even he wasn't expecting the to happen at all. Sawa just went total shit crazy, and Chiba freaked the heck out and shot the little guy. It really hurt my heart seeing him break down during the investigation with Hama, knowing what he had done and knowing that he failed to do the one thing he wanted to do for Chiba, and became the one he feared the most, which was hurting their best friend. His trial was absolutely one that shocked me the most out of the 5 cases, but other than that, he didn't stand out that much as a character, and wish he had gotten a better edit for me, just honestly. Up next, Hagawa Ken. After chapter 5, I have a completely different view of the guy, but before we actually get to that, let's start with the prologue. Honestly, he didn't stand out that much, but it wasn't that bad either. I thought he was going to be like a Shuichi moment where the shy guy grows into a brave, smart detective who helps the group to live. In chapter 1, he becomes besties with Kamimura. Chapter 2, he accidentally messes up by adding Kamimura's condition to the class. But it was all in good heart to clear out the suspicions on Kamimura's name. But other than that, I don't really remember that much during chapter 2. But chapter 3, my god, he really changed as soon as he lost his festy bestie, Kamimura. And he became a lot worse as a character, because we never got to see him at all for chapter 4, and when Watari tried her best to get him out of the room, and for the motive, he literally made himself bleed and used luminol as a light source, which is not surprising because he's a genius, but it's still a bit depressing he had to use such measures to get his results, which is depressing. Yeah. Chapter 5, the whole trial, his plans, and the plans that he planned all the way from chapter 4 to frame Tombbo, set Mai up, weaken Wada even more. He really became the worst of it all, calling everyone selfish, which was probably honestly pretty valid, but I don't really know. Just sucks knowing that he lost all hope because he couldn't protect his only friend. And it only happened because he left him alone, which was really depressing to watch him go through that loss. His execution was one of the most gruesome, but my god, his plan was so perfect but Monomoko just had to ruin it. It was really shocking that he was the killer all along, but at the same time, my god, was it so exhausting watching the trial of non-stop emotional back and forth baseless bicker from Tombbo and Hiroaki. Hagawa deserved better. Hayashi Mai. Hayashi was the exact same for me as Hama. Strong, tough, independent, badass kind of woman. And it was true, but also wrong. She was even better. Chapter 1, she was very focused on getting the group out and was pretty much one of the people who can really contribute a lot, considering the situation all of them were in. She didn't really listen to Sasaki all that much because she wasn't really into the whole leadership thing, but she still admired Sasaki and was able to rally the group into not spiraling, because imagine if she wasn't there. So with that said, I immediately knew Hayashi wasn't going to be an arrogant person like Hiroaki. She gives credit where credit is due, and that's something super awesome about Hayashi. During Isuno's murder, she was super brave due to her occupation dealing with targets and all that stuff. So she knew that she can be the best guard when it comes to investigations. She wasn't entirely afraid, and with Kamimura along, the pair was a success during those dark phases because they were able to carry certain portions in the trial. Chapter 2, we get to see her make connections specifically with Yanagi and the night scene where Hayashi turns into a knight. Ooh, Lord. Watari wished she was me because she didn't get to see all that, but I did. It showed a more open side to Hayashi and how she was quite a curious person despite being very cautious in the situation she was forced to be in. And their bond made me fall in love with her just a bit more. And then Ice Fairy happened when Yanagi beat the shit out of Hiroaki. Hayashi took the initiative to tie Yanagi up. That moment really showed that Hayashi still was that tough person and nothing was going to crack her then. She was really awesome for that, just so nothing even worse comes out of Yanagi was going out scot-free after beating the shit out of him. Jesus. Chapter 3 was a bit of a blur for me, to be honest, but what I do remember is that her bond with Yanagi came back to as strangers to what he did earlier, and the iconic breaking of her character when she tried to break the rules by breaking down the locker room, which turned out to be a whole freaking arsenal, by the way. What the fuck? That whole moment made me feel bad for Hayashi because she went all out due to Tombbo's freak out and suddenly lashing out on Hayashi for not trying hard anymore. It sucked, but it was also true. She promised that she'd get them out, but she has failed time after time after time. When she was punished, it completely changed who Hayashi was and didn't want others to be endangered for doing the same thing. It was terrifying to see her disappear by a blink of an eye, and it really showed who was actually in charge, and it was the team of those god-awful researchers. Chapter 4, she completely ignores Yanagi and clearly frustrated that he went out of his way to picklock the arsenal room knowing it will put him into severe trouble just like she literally just went through a couple videos ago. During this chapter, she taught Tombbo how to become stronger whenever she isn't there after making up with her at the end of chapter 3. And it really did show something because we'll get to that eventually. But other than that, I don't think there was a lot about her apart from her and Yanagi and how she doesn't trust Yanagi anymore, especially in chapter 3 after raising his voice. Though she did come off a bit stubborn, but let a girl have her hobbies, as they say. Chapter 5 was the roughest to watch, honestly, with her taking in so many punishments and the loyalty game. It made me so sick to my stomach that she didn't want the others to face the punishments because it could have been so gruesome on their part. Her interview with Monomoko and the stories behind Hayashi wanting to become a bounty hunter and the extra drippings of the lore behind it broke my heart. And on top of that, Yanagi confessing that he loved her and didn't want her to face any more pain from the game. If I was Hayashi, I would have just died right there as well because what the hell? She was an amazing person, and she absolutely deserved to escape with how much she brought to the table for the group to move forward. And of all the people Hasegawa chose to kill the most selfless of the currently alive, then which to me was kind of dumb. But other than that, it sucks seeing her go like that. Hiroaki Nakamigawa. I have a lot of things to say about Hiroaki, and they aren't very nice ones. Hiroaki was too much for me to handle with his over the top and everyone below him tone to the group. The second I heard his voice and how he behaved, he was immediately placed last in the prologue, and it didn't stop from there. Chapter 1, he immediately comes after Sasaki's methods, now that she's feeling leading the group, and with how she was going to try to use the vent to escape. He decided to be a big bitch about it, goes after Sasaki after the events, especially the one time when Sasaki was the teacher, and made a whole mockery of her. And whenever someone goes after his throat, he bitches away like a bully in high school trying to act pure and innocent. From that moment on, I completely despised Hiroaki because that was not cool at all. Not one bit I liked anything about him, and genuinely I really hoped someone would get his ass. Speaking of which, my answers were prayered as Yanagi beat the shit out of him. At first I was like, yes! He deserved it for being such a dick. Then the excitement just went quickly to being terrified for him because as much as he was much of an ass, he didn't really deserve that kind of treatment either. But then at the same time, he kept pressing Yanagi's buttons, and that was the nail that sealed it. I don't understand why Hiroaki was so gagged about it because he did that on purpose and kept going. You reap what you sow, as they say. He gets taken care of by Sununo and Chiba medically and beauticianically, whatever that means. Anyways, that's all from him. Chapter 3 was when I actually started to like him again. I even considered him putting up first in my numerical ranking because he gave out jackets to Kamimura and was being a bit more tolerable. Until he started being an absolute bitch to Wada, all because he was giving a bit of attitude. To Wada, of all people. I understand that he had to defend himself a bit, but to make Wada feel guilty that Isuno gave her immunity away when he wasn't even aware, it was such a classic dick move of him from Hiroaki, but who's surprised at this point? And the fact that he even tried to defend his actions was even weirder for me. Chapter 4 was nice to see him get all giddy up over the sewing room as we know that he is a designer. And that he gets... and then he gets pushed by Tombbo during the blackout mode because Tombbo for some reason was super paranoid. Bless her heart. And for some reason, Hiroaki goes on this random moment being completely insensitive when they found out that Hama was the killer, not even allowing them to even just process and accepting the fact that he was the killer, unfortunately. Because of that moment alone, he was placed last in my numerical ranking once more. Chapter 5, where do I even begin with about Hiroaki? Because at the very beginning of this chapter, he apologized to her group. And then all of that crumbled when Tombbo was given a death threat letter. This was one of the rare moments where I felt really bad for Hiroaki because I genuinely believe that it wasn't him who wrote that in the first place. But I can't really blame Tombbo for thinking that as well, because Hiroaki was literally terrible to everyone else, with the exception of Ojima, I guess. Anyways, in true Hiroaki fashion, my sympathy towards him vanished when he pushed Tombbo down the stairs and broke her leg. I mean, come on, yes, she was annoying, but my god, was that really necessary? And he really believed that Tombbo would commit a murder with a broken leg. Tombbo, of all people, he really thought she could commit such a complex case when she is not even the sharpest tool in the shed. Like, that's actually really stupid of him. God. As much as I really hated the guy, out of all the survivors, Hiroaki Nakamigawa truly deserved to get out of that hellhole that he was put in. And as much as there was a lot of bad qualities about him, there were still some really good highlights about him as well. Being besties with Chiba when she fixed his face, and how he complimented her ability to literally cover up his injuries, like Jesus. Getting help and accepting the help from Sununo when his mug got beat by Yanagi, and also the times when he would calm Ojima down whenever he's not feeling himself or completely breaking down of character. Most importantly, his ability to deny that he actually really enjoys being around people who actually understand him. If it were up to me in a real life scenario, I would love to get to know him more. I'm not sure if he'd feel the same way about me, especially now that I'm doing this review about him. But other than that, truly one of the well-written characters in this series. Isuno Miki. Isuno was one of the very few people where I go, OMG, I love her. And she did not disappoint me at all when I actually saw her inside of her only chapter. Amazing, talented, brilliant, stunning, beautilicious, divalicious diva, Stanlina Georgina. She was literally everything that just exudes awesomeness. She became scissor sisters with Suno and became oomps with Wada. The fact that she was one of the few who actually came to Wada and tried to be besties, perhaps it's just her idol and streamer persona that really helps out, but still, we can't really ignore the fact that she still wanted someone alone to have some company just in the game. She even gave her immunity to Wada, like such a kind mother, which became her biggest downfall, because she died literally right after. This was literally fucked up because I was so freaking sleepy. But Josh and Chin were like, oh my god, Blix, just a few more videos. And mind you, it was at 1 a.m. I really wanted to sleep, but I decided to, out of the kindness of my heart, I'll keep watching. Then I realized they only wanted me to stay up to watch her die. Shady. Shady as hell. Shady. So shady. When she died, I literally stopped watching Tetro for a few days because I was really upset that my number 2 in my numerical ranking system is already gone. She was too good for that place, and honestly, it was probably for the better, considering that as the chapters go on, the people get a lot worse. I do have to say that this is already the second time I've seen an idol die first, and it's getting a little too predictable for my liking. And before coming into the body discovery, I already knew that she was going to die first because of how big of a role she got into be for the Wada, Suno, Isuno trio. So something was definitely going to happen. It was sealed when she gave away her immunity. So yeah, pretty predictable kill. Nonetheless, still one of the best characters for such a short time. Kamimura Kazutoshi. Kamimura from first impressions, I really like his bitchy tone to the researchers during his interview. From his occupation or talent, I immediately knew he was going to be the more useful ones when it comes to investigating. Chapter 1, he becomes besties with Hasegawa and opens up about his illnesses. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, when he said that he has certain difficulties, my worry starts to kick in because of how great he is with investigations, but with his sickness, he is such an easy target to kill. Luckily, he was protected by Hasegawa because the two were always together. I just completely forgot about the punishments game. I felt so horrible for Kamimura getting a punishment, all because he started dozing off. It wasn't fair at all on his part, but then again, he didn't tell anyone about his conditions because, yeah, it will put him a target. But yeah, Tombbo was pretty messed up for doing that to him. Chapter 2, I believe he doesn't play much of a part, but what I do remember is that he and Tombbo become civilic oomphs, and how he had a crush on Hasegawa, which to me I was like, oh, that's so adorable. I don't know if Hasegawa ever felt the same, because it really wasn't talked about at all. But my guess is that the feeling was mutual. Chapter 3, my God, I felt so horrible for him because the poor guy was freezing and he finally started to miss home and how he's going to repair his relationship with his aunt. And I was like, oh, wholesome character growth. And my God, all of that changed because of fucking Okazaki wanted to sell some stupid rivalry and use Kamimura as a stepping stone. I felt so bad for Kamimura because the odds were never once in his favor, and he was such a cool person too. It sucked that he only died because him and Hasegawa split up by mere seconds. He was definitely worthy of surviving if he hadn't died there, because he had contributed to the group investigations and was pretty logical when it came to the trials. So yeah, his death was literally for nothing, and it's pretty upsetting to know that he died for nothing. Truly snubbed. Ojima Takeshi. Ojima didn't give a good impression on me, but he never gave me a bad one either. He was just fine, nothing negative, or nothing special, just neutral. Chapter 1, he becomes besties with both Hiroaki and Sasaki, which put him in a very weird position, mostly spacing out during the entirety of this chapter, but that's all I remember. Chapter 2, he hangs out a bit with Chiba and Hiroaki a lot more, especially Hiroaki for their storyline and Chiba for her storyline, when she asked Ojima to draw something for her, which to me was like, this is new. Ojima does something! And then he spaces out some more. Chapter 3, he busts Monomoko's ass for being a little shit that she is. He and Hiroaki get a lot more closer, saving Hiroaki from doing the thing, and getting to know his reasons for spacing out and such. Chapter 4. Poor Ojima. I think that's the best way I can say it. Chapter 5 is definitely one of the biggest moments for me in Ojima, because throughout this entire chapter, I have been accusing Ojima as the killer, or the one setting up all the traps for Hayashi, or well, Tombbo and Hiroaki. And I personally thought that it was a good theory, unlike someone who made fun of me and started saying I made a Tombbo theory. I really believed that it was him, but no, it was not, because Hasegawa played me really nasty. Anyways, yeah, Ojima is really one of my favorites throughout, but because I did feel really bad with the amount of panic he was going through, and I think it really fully embellished his character, as I did not pay much attention to him throughout chapters 1 to 4. Because of how much crap he was going on, he spaced out even more and more. I feel bad writing this summary of him due to how short it is compared to certain characters, but I do think his personality and overall arc was a nice and smoother balance to the rest of the surviving group. I just wish he didn't space out that much. But then again, that's not his fault. Okazaki Hanano. I don't know how to feel about Okazaki, honestly. When I was introduced to her, I immediately thought that she was creepy, scary, and definitely aiming to kill at some point. She doesn't have a major presence when it comes to before the murder begins, but I do remember that her immediately with no hesitation giving her punishment to Hiroaki in chapter 1. And I kid you not, I literally started growing on her because of it. She truly gave no fucks about him, and that got her to rise in my numerical system. Chapter 2, she plays a somewhat major part for Watari and Wada's storyline. Watari being her bestie in the game when no motive is in plan, and Wada during the investigations became her favorite punching bag, which I still don't understand why she craved doing it. She did it the first time to prove his innocence, despite how unethical it was very effective for Wada's part, because it cleared him out of the suspicion during the trial. One time I let slide, but the amount of time she tortures Wada's over and over again has made me super uncomfortable watching the series. And when she really got him, really solidified my hatred for her. And when she killed my Kamimura, and my queen of drag, Sununo Manami, I was even more mad because the killer was very obvious from the get-go. Her trial, despite being very complicated and different, which I love, it was super obvious who it was as soon as Sununo died. So, though it was very predictable, I really cheered at the sudden twist she did before she left the game officially. It was different, unique, and true Okazaki fashion. I still forgot the name of her villain era. If someone can tell me, let me know. Sasaki Hitomi. Sasaki Hitomi was definitely an interesting character that could have been explored more had they made it past chapter 1. For a first impression, I really liked her direct and desire to lead in order to stop certain crazy chaos. I was loving her so much because she hated Hiroaki, and I too hated Hiroaki. She was one of my favorites for that alone. I enjoyed seeing her take control of the situation and doing everything to help the others and herself escape. Even if the result wasn't what they wanted, she still kept going. The love I had for her started to fade when she literally preached about taking their own punishments, but when it was her turn, she gave it away to Yanagi. It was a really weird move, but seeing that part happen, I thought to myself, maybe Sasaki will go far because she's really something. And then my love for the girlie immediately went to zero when I found out that she killed Isono. Stress is one thing, but my god, girlie. God, girlie, why? I had so much faith in you. You couldn't just have done that to Hiroaki or something. Like, it just sucks. It just sucks. Ultimately, I was really crushed that she died early on. I would have loved to see her character be fully played out with Hiroaki, Yanagi, Wada, and there's so much potential she could have had if she was still alive. I wanted to know her more. Thankfully, Tetro made a conclusion video with Red. Tombbo Reiko. Tombbo was, not gonna lie, pretty much an underwritten character from what I remember her, because she doesn't really play a major role until we get to chapter 5, but from her first impressions, I thought she was gonna be more. Chapter 1, she makes a bit of a pact with Hayashi, hoping that she'll help them escape. She makes a bit of a feud with Kamimura over his whole dozing off issue. She also climbs the rope and she actually did something, but those weren't really that important. The true highlight of Tombbo was her being really convinced that Isono died from poison despite her head being crushed by the pan. Yes, Tombbo, it was definitely poison, and I support you, queen. Chapter 2, she makes up with Kamimura, teaches and cheers on for Chiba to get up to the vent, because she was one of the only few people who could actually make it there, but those parts aren't important either. She brings up the poison twice, once more in the trial. Oh, Tombbo. Chapter 3, she goes off on Hayashi over the promise Hayashi made in chapter 1, which is kind of dickish, but I also understand because she too wanted to escape badly as the others, but she makes up for it anyway, so all is good. Chapter 4, she gets trained by Hayashi, even though I don't think she wanted to do that at all, but good on her for actually doing it, because she's not really great at defending herself, in her words, is what I would say, because she almost pushed Hiroaki off. Jesus. This literally could have gotten her killed off, but luckily Hiroaki survived that. The unfortunate part of that is Hiroaki really doesn't like her for attempting murder, even though she was defending herself. I think Hayashi's training simply made her way more paranoid. Chapter 5, Tombbo, this is where things get really messy on her part, because when things are finally simmering down, the tensions rise up even higher because Hasegawa gave that death threat to her. She does a whole investigation, accuses Hiroaki for making said threat, even though he didn't. She even stalks him in the most obvious way ever. I felt so bad for Hiroaki. Then we get to the games, and my god, as much as I understand why Tombbo was in danger, it really annoyed me that of all the advantages she could have had, the one she received didn't even play a major part, and not just that, she really screwed over the group by minimizing half of the investigation time, which is the most important thing, objectively speaking. It was really frustrating, but I can't truly fault her for that, because she literally got a freaking death threat. Things don't get better at all with Loyalty Game, letting her information out with Wada and Hasegawa and about them. It was really bizarre afterwards because she gets pushed down and loses the very career she only has. So thanks, Hiroaki. Great job. Doesn't get any better than that. They really thought Tombbo herself would commit such an intelligent and complex plan, all with a broken leg. Like, how insane do you have to be to think that that's actually possible in such a short amount of time? Tombbo was not really a likable character, but the majority of the time she never stood out and had the weakest scores in times comparison of the others who lived just as long as her. I really wish she was shown more other than just chapter 5, honestly. Also, chapter 4, Tombbo in the room with Yanagi as they were practicing, I felt very bad for Tombbo, especially how her parents treat her. And special mention to Tako for laughing at her ass when she was crying of being accused of being the murderer in chapter 5. So evil. Jesus. Suno Manami. Suno Manami immediately was one of my favorites. Shocker. Jim and Josh immediately clocked the fact that her kind and superhero persona was enough to put her in my top favorites. So, for her summary, I will write out their YouTube videos, stand Twitter clips.
She is the mother I never had. She is the sister everybody would want. She is the friend that everybody deserves. I don't know a better person.
Suno Manami, I feel like, was the best person around the group when it comes to the morale. She took care of everyone who was badly injured, like Hiroaki when he got beat the fuck down by Yanagi, Wada with their Wada things, and Kamimura when he wasn't in his best shape as usual. Yanagi when his hand literally got stabbed. I would argue that she was the glue to the group, and with killing her, it sets in the tone when there was no more assurance and no one would feel safe. She was one of the few that stayed the same for everyone to do their best, apart from Okazaki, who beefed with her for no reason. I would have loved seeing her make it to the end with Wada, and it absolutely crushes me learning that she was originally going to make it out of there alive, but no. We got Yanagi instead. Wada Masanari. Oh, Wada, my oomph. At first, he didn't really give the greatest impression because of his shy and quiet personality, so I didn't really gravitate towards him. But things changed when he got to interact more with the characters, such as Isuno and Suno. He opened up to them more, probably a bit more than I feel like I should know, especially when he talks about eating chalk. I felt super bad for him in chapter 1, especially when he got super sick and basically gave the entire group a punishment due to his very much needed rest. He gets immunity thanks to Isuno, but all for her to die instead, which sucks because Wada definitely was gonna die if she didn't give it to him. The feeling of pity doesn't stop here because the boy goes through a lot of shit from Okazaki in chapter 2, where she locks him up. Yay, he got proven innocent, but my god, did I feel terrible for the guy because Okazaki took advantage of it. Even before that, Yanagi was literally close to beating his ass for something he didn't do. Lord, give this boy a break. That wish did not work because Okazaki would then beat his ass not once, not twice, but 3 times. My god, I never felt so uncomfortable seeing him just become a literal punching bag for Okazaki, and seeing him just take it. This was also the moment where he speaks out about his insecurities and his lack of eating problems due to the comments Tombbo makes, which makes me... Oh, I felt so terrible for the guy. Things doesn't even get any better because he loses his best friend Suno after letting her open the door. Oh, Wada, my oomph. Chapter 4, I don't think he plays that much of a role. Maybe some talks to Suno and Isuno in his own room, like some kind of coffin, and how he's not doing well after taking care of himself, and how he's about to improve on himself eating properly thanks to Yanagi. That did not happen after. Chapter 5, Wada, it's a lot. Because he stops taking care of himself and breaks promises for Isuno, which I'm not gonna lie, I was very disappointed, honestly. Seeing him give up more and more, and barely even trying, but at least he got a sickening haircut from Hiroaki. Or was that chapter 4? Things doesn't get any better because in one of the games, everyone gets fucking slices just so he can have security cameras that served little to no purpose. Sorta. Because Hasegawa knew about the secret tunnels and paths without getting caught anyway, which was even more disappointing. I won't lie, I really wish Wada was gone on chapter 3, seeing how his overall journey was just really, really depressing. Watching it all play out at first, I was really rooting for him, but I ended up feeling more and more sadder. It makes it even harder to even cheer for him. Sometimes I even agreed with Tombbo. We had better people, but it's not really Wada's fault, because he didn't ask to be part of this whole messed up experiment. It doesn't even get any better because dies from malnutrition after the whole experiment. So it doesn't really get any better. Oh, Wada. Yanagi Shigeki. First glance, I really liked Yanagi and when he first appeared. Stereotypical dreamboat, the girls adored. So it worked out for him until I saw more of him in the game. In the first chapter, I didn't mind him that much until he has a vocabulary of an 18th century butler type of shit, which was making me really cringe so bad. It was just too much, and every time he and Hiroaki would argue and bicker at one another, it was just such a mid-off between the two idiots. Literally hated Yanagi, and I hated Yanagi even more for lying for Sasaki when she was a murderer. Doing everything for her when she and Yanagi have only met for a week! So stupid. Chapter 2 doesn't get any better because he comes for Wada for nothing. Punches Hiroaki. I support, but Jesus, that's too far for my liking. Yanagi was high-key going psycho and enjoying the idea of being zip-tied by Queen Mother Monarch icon Hayashi. Like, just a hot mess overall. Things were going so well, getting to know his story. It's such a shame that he fell back from there. Chapter 3, he becomes an assistant to Sununo in the medical bay, then has this very emotional moment with Hayashi after she broke the rules. Oh, Queen Monarch almost got herself killed after breaking school property, so that was sweet of Yanagi. Chapter 4, Yanagi, he helps Wada out by making a lovely meal schedule so Wada can be a little more functional. Then has another sobbing emotional moment. He also has this moment with Tombbo about how she got into some gymnastics, and just like Yanagi, I was hella concerned for how her parents treated her, because what the fuck? Chapter 5 and the final chapter of Yanagi probably didn't get to do a whole lot considering he got sick, and Hayashi wouldn't let him go anywhere near her as she's investigating around the school, then confesses to Hayashi out of frustration and it led to her dying afterwards, which made me itch well a little too hard. I feel really bad for the guy because he wasn't able to do much for the entire investigation and had to rely on others to do so. The overall change of Yanagi's character was interesting, from the happy guy who wants to protect women from being hurt after he hurt a girl, to this serious, scary, and intimidating aura of a guy who just wanted to hurt the people who messed up with the group that he was just with. Honestly, that was kind of badass. But yeah, I definitely think his character overall was really good, even when he annoys me at times. Last but never the least, Watari Nishino. Watari, from first impressions, I didn't really get her at first, but getting into the actual story of Tetro, how my opinions have changed. Watari Nishino was a true Ijbol queen from start to finish. In chapter 1, though playing a pretty small role, she made a very bad move for not being really thorough with the investigation, which gave Sasaki a lot of passes for her sloppy work. She makes it up by becoming the prettiest princess ever in chapter 2 and entering the Scissor City for a good chapter with Hayashi. Just a lot of hilarious moments with Tari, especially with her becoming the headmaster of the school and completely ignoring the fuck out of rabbit bitch named Monomoko, and also forming the school staff, which becomes very important later on, especially when Okazaki and Wada are part of said staff. Chapter 3, Watari plays a much bigger role now considering her friendship with Okazaki. She scolds Okazaki for proving Wada's innocence in unethical ways, but also wants Okazaki to do better ways in order to make friends other than Watari herself. Though her lectures proved futile, as Okazaki went berserk and killed 2 best characters of all time, aside from Watari. Watching Watari sob after knowing her best friend in this hellhole is really proud of becoming the killer over some petty dispute. Chapter 4, Watari. My god, how I was so blind. It took me to the trial to realize that Watari was going to end it all. and tried to get Hama out of the school by sacrificing herself. I felt so bad after thinking about her entire character, from this girl who didn't really take this all seriously to the girl who didn't want to return home, who had nothing worth living for her from her perspective. It just sucks. And with that, that's all from the characters from Tetro Pink. Now it's time for me to reveal how I ranked them through my numerical system. Each chapter, the remaining and living characters get to be ranked from 1 to 16. When I was doing this, I kind of felt bad for the people who are still alive, knowing that they can turn a lot worse, which they did, I guess, in chapter 5. And the ones who aren't alive could easily overtake them, especially in chapter 1, if I like them or don't, which is why I added a prologue to hopefully balance things out. So let's begin from last place of my system to the first place of my system. In 16th place, with an average of 12, we have Harada Queso. In a group of strong and a lovely cast, he never stood out for me and ultimately wasn't interesting. But he has his moments with Chiba and Hama and talking about his life story and with his girlfriend and stuff. But yeah, Harada is in last. In 15th place, with an average of 11.3, we have Hiroaki Nakamigawa. Has his best and has his worst. Some moments where his feelings are valid, a lot of moments where I question how he is still popular around the internet of Japan in the world of Tetro. But nonetheless, he wasn't my favorite in the group, subjectively. In 14th place, we have an average of 11.25, we have Okazaki Hanano. I actually like Okazaki's blunt humor and her way of thinking until chapter 3, where she constantly tortures Wada, and that made me super uncomfortable and guaranteed her last spot, and pushing Yanagi and Hiroaki just up a little bit higher despite my dislike towards them. In 13th place, with an average of 10.67, we have Chiba Ireie. Classic hate to love character arc. Had she survived chapter 2, she for sure would have placed a lot higher because of her unique characteristics. In 12th place, with an average of 10, we have Yanagi Shigeki. From prologue to chapter 2 before Ice Fairy, he made me cringe so much with the ways he spoke, so poetically, and how uptight he was giving. I kinda missed that guy after watching him devolve in later chapters. In 11th place, with an average of 9.5, we have Sasaki Hitomi. I placed her very well in for the prologue, because that's mom, but I swore to Chim and Josh that I'll give whoever killed Isuno last, and, well, here we are. In 10th place, with an average of 7.83, we have Tombbo Reiko. Underwritten of a character, especially when they didn't exist in chapter 3 for a good half of it. I wish we got more of Tombbo to get her know her more, but I guess chapter 5 was to make up for that. In 9th place, with an average of 7, we have Ojima Takeshi. Nothing bad, but nothing good either. Pretty flat and pretty one note. My favorite part of him was him and Chiba making that book together with his illustrations. But yeah, his moments with drawings were really eye-opening to me, at least, especially in chapter 4. In 8th place, with an average of 6.67, we have Hagawa Ken. Though never stood out in my rankings, he was adorable and awkward, and it solidified him in the middle spots. Then losing Kamimura, I felt bad, and he stopped who he was and never got back from it. In 7th place, with an average of 6, we have Kamimura Kazutoshi. At least the two are placed next to each other. Kamimura started to warm up and wanted to go home and fix everything, but my god, good things just never happen, especially the way he goes out. Thanks, Tetro. In 6th place, with an average of 5.5, we have Wada Masanari. Oh, Wada. So precious and so fragile. My chalk-eating oomph and my salt-eating oomph. Rest in peace. In 5th place, with an average of 5.2, we have Watari Nishino. The Ichibull Queen and the flaming hot diva of a lifetime. It's just mother energy. What else is there to say? Like, that's queen. In 4th place, with an average of 4.8, we have Hama Ran? I don't know. He's literally mama's boy with green flags surrounding him like a ritual. Like, how can you not love this guy? So precious, so awesome, and so badass. On to our top 3. In 3rd place, with an average of 3.83, we have Hayashi Mai. I understand Watari and Yanagi, and I stand with Watari and Yanagi. Responsible, brave, and strong. Just the most helpful person in that group. It's such a shame that she was the target for Hasegawa. In second place, with an average of 2, we have Isono Miki. Thankfully, she died early, but it's a damn shame she died early because of all the potential she had. But thank God she was this high, because I don't think I would have done that for her in later chapters. In first place, with an average of 1.5, we have Suno Manami. By far the best character of this group. The one who took care of everyone's injuries, focused on everyone, and the one I really see myself and relate to the most. Little one note, but that's okay because this is the Queen of Drag. And that's everything for my review for Tetro. It was an experience for sure. It was full of laughter, angst, and a lot of fujoshing from me. A lot of times I got angry and sad, especially when my favorites of each chapter would turn out to be the next one to die. Thank you to whoever made this into a series because this was really a unique way of doing one. And I hope I get to see more of that uniqueness in Tetro Blue. I hope you all enjoyed listening to this even if I didn't give your character the best review. Thank you to the creators of Tetro, and thank you to my friends who showed me this and the people who got to watch with me, especially Taco, because they first saw Chapter 5 instead of the very beginning. Please subscribe so I can get to make more videos. I would really appreciate it, and I would also like you guys to follow my X, formerly known as Twitter, and my Twitch account, and I have a Discord server too, so if you want to join, it's all in the link in the bio. Yeah. For now, I'll see you all next time. Hopefully. Right?